Hello and welcome to the Today's Homeowner Weekly podcast. We're here to help you with the challenges we all face as homeowners. I'm Danny Lifford.
And I'm Joe Truini. And each week, Danny and I are here on the podcast to answer any and all home improvement questions.
And we want to hear from you. Send us your questions or comments at todayshomeowner.com/podcast.
Okay, Danny, let's get started.
Today's Homeowner Podcast is brought to you by the Home Depot. How doers get more done. This week, we talked to a homeowner that's doing something that a lot of homeowners are probably doing, trying to get their deck ready for a busy summer ahead. We've got to talk about deck railings and an idea of actually removing the deck railings and then installing stairs that actually go all the way around the deck. Pretty good idea if your deck is low enough to the ground. Also, a little conversation about composite decking, because there's always questions about composite decking.
Yeah, this is a great time of year to not only talk about refinishing an existing deck, but how to add on to and remodel and enlarge an existing deck, which is a great project because you're not rebuilding the whole thing, right? So that's a great summer project for do-it-yourselfers. And we're also going to talk about snakes. That's right. Black snakes in particular. Black snakes seem to find a way into and around our house. And should you be frightened of them? Well, perhaps, but they're not quite as dangerous as you might think. And we'll cover that subject coming up.
And they do serve a purpose, that they're put here on earth for a reason, and we'll share those few reasons with you as well. You know, we talk a lot about home ownership, which is a wonderful thing that we're able to experience, but sometimes people are renting until they have an opportunity to buy a house. Well, you don't have to just sit there in that rental house and not do anything to bring your personality into it or improve it. We have some really good ideas that worked really well on a recent episode of our television show that we did, but we're going to share some of those ideas with you as well.
And fiberglass mesh tape is great for repairing drywall damage and sealing the seams between cement backer board. But how do you get it to stick? Well, I've got a simple solution that'll tell you within just a few seconds how to make sure that tape sticks each and every time.
There you go. We got a lot to share with you, so we're going to get started right now. Zach is on the phone from Wisconsin with a deck question. Zach, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. I've got two if there's time. My first one is I'd like to rebuild my front deck, and I'd like to use composite decking, but everything I see for the structure, the stringers and stuff, would be pressure-treated lumber, and I feel like that would rot out eventually faster than the composite decking, so I don't know if there's something to do about that.
Well, that is pretty traditional. You definitely want a good quality pressure-treated material, because there are variances in the quality of that. So you want to do a little bit of research or whatever's available there in your area to make sure you get the best. But that is a pretty traditional way. Of course, you could go with some type of steel or some kind of aluminum structure and all, but it just wouldn't look right. It'd be a lot more expensive. So that's very standard approach. And the way we generally would build a deck is that same way. Good quality treated wood. But you also have to follow those directions. Make sure you're not getting them use the proper kind. So if it's a ground contact is a different treated wood than other types of treated wood. So you might have to consider that.
Zach, the other thing I was going to suggest is they do make now, it's like peel and stick tape. It's a flashing product. It's flexible, and it's meant to go over the top of the joists and the beams before you put down the decking. And the idea is that it prevents water from seeping through and sitting on top of these. But, certainly a plastic composite lumber is going to last a lot longer than any wood. But as Danny said, a good quality pressure-treated lumber is typically the way to frame a deck, any deck, regardless of what you're putting on the top surface.
Sounds good. That's what I figured. If I have time for my second one, I wanted to remove railings on the back side of my deck, which you may have pictures of, and put steps in. I don't know if they should be attached or detached or how they would go. It's only 2 steps, 3 rises.
Sure. Actually, I think that's a really cool idea to kind of open up your deck to the yard a good bit, and you could remove those railings and do the repairs that you need to on the decking itself. And then I would attach the stairs to the actual deck surface itself so that it just flows right out. Currently, you don't have any risers on your stairs. I would suggest doing that for a more finished look, and it serves for a great situation for a lot of seating there too as you have your activities out in the yard. So great little project, Zach. Glad you were able to be with us today. Certainly appreciate you being a part of the Today's Homeowner Radio Show, and if we can help you in the future, just let us know. Time for our Best New Product segment, brought to you by the Home Depot. How doers get more done. During this strange time, many of us have been stuck, kind of self-quarantining ourselves at home. You've probably heard us talk about the importance of making good use of that time by getting a few necessary projects done and out of the way. One task anyone can tackle is decluttering spaces like your attic, basement, or garage. Husky's 20-gallon professional-grade totes are essential to help store some of the more heavy-duty items that you may have laying around. The high-impact polycarbonate lid is the strongest available, capable of protecting against dust and water. Plus, it's clear, providing visibility to the tools and accessories you have stored inside. The entire tote is designed to withstand abuse from dropping, stacking, and tossing. Plus, it comes with tie-down holes for better security when you move the tote in your truck or your SUV. And the finely crafted handles makes it very easy to handle. So make sure that you check this out, and more information is available on the Husky's 20-gallon professional-grade tote by logging on to HomeDepot.com. Boy, I'll tell you, Joe, I'm headed in to buy some of these very things because trying to get organized in the new house and so forth, which is going very, very well. Actually, I just ended up with my finishing my last box.
Oh, emptying it or filling it up?
Yeah, emptying my last box. However, there's probably 25 to 30 more waiting on me at my house to bring down here. But little plateau. Yay, I got it all done. Okay, now I got a bunch more to go. But
it is smart to buy those better totes, because I've bought some of the cheap ones, and you start stacking them up, and of course the one on the bottom keeps getting crushed more and more until the lid breaks, and then you have a tub with no lid, and so you're better off spending the money on these Husky professional grade totes, because they'll last quite a bit longer.
Yeah. I have a comment here that was kind of cool from somebody actually on our Facebook page. We'd remind you on the Today's Homeowner Facebook page is a great way for you to pick up a lot of information, a lot of tips for your home, as well as to connect with us. This one is binging during quarantine. Said, I found your program a couple years ago when I moved to Utah. Now, during the quarantine, I am binge watching season 8. Right up to the current episodes on Amazon Prime. Love the television show. All the tips and suggestions and features. Only wish I knew about the show when I was a homeowner in Las Vegas. It was a true money pit. I'm renting now, but you've actually motivated me to maybe try home ownership again. My best from Lynn. That was very, very nice email to get. We love to get those things, and Joe, as I said, it's so cool when we're able to really engage with our audience and really hear some of the things, like great comments just like that.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, you did a show. Wasn't there a Today's Homeowner show about fixing up a rental?
Sure did.
Right? And where, although you're renting, it doesn't mean you can't fix up your house. You don't want to invest, obviously, thousands and thousands of dollars or build onto it. But, there are certain things you can do. And check it out. Go to today'shomeowner.com and search for, I'm not sure, what would they search, Danny? Rental upgrades or something like that?
Right, Yeah, rental home upgrade. Yeah, it's one of the episodes that we did. But, you think about some of the things like, there we installed one of the Wi-Fi enabled deadbolt locks. So, you take the existing lock off, put it in a box so that you save it. We also removed a light fixture in a bedroom and installed a ceiling fan. Same thing. Take the ceiling fan box and put the light fixture in carefully with some bubble wrap. And we also did like a shower head, upgrade to one of these really cool shower heads. And they took the other shower head. So then when those particular homeowners or renters moved out, they simply put everything back in, and they were good to go, and they took the things to the next home. So that's a pretty good way of going. Like I say, put a little personality in it, make it a little bit nicer than you might have it now. Now is your time to enter our big Backyard Paradise contest. If your backyard needs a makeover, head over right now and enter our Backyard Paradise contest at today'shomeowner.com/Backyard Paradise for your chance to win your own beautifully landscaped backyard from our pros at Pavestone and Quikrete. They will design a project for the winner's home, and the whole process, your home, will be featured on an upcoming episode of the Today's Homeowner television show. So get your yard ready for the summertime and complete your entry right now. No matter where you live in the United States, you are eligible to win. And this is brought to you by Pavestone and Quikrete, and enter right now. today'shomeowner.com/ facebook.com/backyard paradise. We always have a lot of great response on that, and our friends at Pavestone and Quicker have done a fantastic job every single year. I guess we've done this, I think this is probably our either 6th or 7th year, and always look forward to that, and we'll take care of everything, and all you have to do is just watch it all come together. I got some great emails. This one came in from Susan out in Texas. Hi, Danny. Summer's coming up, and my grandkids just love coming over to use my swimming pool. We love having them over here, but it is almost impossible to keep them from running on the pool deck, so I constantly worry about them slipping and falling. Is there anything I can do to make the pool deck less slippery? It's made from brick pavers. I don't want to change the way it looks if I don't have to. Boy, I tell you what.
That's something you're experiencing now with a new house, a new pool, and new grandkids, right?
I was going to say, you cannot. What is it about a pool and people running? You're running after, catching a ball that's over there. I don't know. Anyway, but no matter what you have, a lot of times when a pool deck gets wet, it's going to be slippery and dangerous. So, Susan, I completely understand. Our grandkids love coming over and using our pool, and there's really no slow setting, I guess you would say, because they get hyped up. And I remember those times how exciting it was to be able to get into a swimming pool. But even if people aren't running around, pool decks can be pretty slippery, and most of the textured coatings for pool decks are designed for concrete, and they will change the appearance. So it doesn't sound like that's the thing that you would want, but I'll tell you, there's a new solution that we've just found out about from our friends at Deitch Coatings called Track Safe. It is a clear coating that you can apply yourself to almost any surface inside or out that improves the slip resistance of the surface, whether it's wet or dry. So listen, all you have to do, you can apply 2 coats of the material with a roller just a few hours apart, and within 24 hours, it's ready to go for normal traffic. In fact, the president of the company, who we've had on the show a number of times, a great friend of ours, Peter Deitch, came up with this idea for Track Safe after he slipped and fell on the pool deck. Go. So that's solving. I'll solve that problem. So it sounds like it should be a perfect fit for you, Susan, to get those grandkids to, it's not going to slow them down, but at least it'll keep them from getting hurt along the ways. And you can find out exactly where you can get it and buy it right off of the website at DeitchCoatings.com. And that Deitch is spelled D-A-I-C-H Coatings.com. There's another good problem solution situation, Joe, and one of our friends here at Deitch Coatings solved that problem. Yeah,
and it was a great idea that Peter had of applying this to the pool deck. His first idea was just to apply it to the feet of his grandchildren. This way they'd be non-slip no matter where they were. But he figured, well, I could sell more of this stuff if we decide to put it on the pool deck. No, they've come up with several products just in the last few years, and they're amazing. And that's coming up with a product right from your own situation, right? He slipped and fell and figured, well, there's got to be another way. I'm making coatings. Let's make one non-slip. So I'm looking forward to this Track Safe, and it's spelled Tracsafe. Leave the K off.
A lot of the solutions to some of the more common problems can be very, very simple. And here's another simple solution from my buddy Joe Truini.
Okay, well, this one is simple and very effective. Fiberglass mesh tape, which you may have seen in hardware stores and home center. It's great for repairing damaged drywall. If you have a big gouge or a hole made by a doorknob or whatever, you can use it for covering the seams and cement backerboard. Whenever you're putting out cement backerboard for a tile job, you always have to cover the seams first, the seams between the sheets first with mesh tape. But the trick is how to get it to stick, because the tape is fiberglass mesh, and there's very little adhesive, right? It's not like a solid strip of fabric like most tape is. So you have to get it to stick for it to work well, and here's the simple solution. Before putting down the tape, you get a lightly dampened sponge, and I'm talking about very lightly dampened, not sopping wet, and wipe down all the seams, all the drywall, wherever you're putting the tape. Wipe it down. You want to remove every single bit of dust, dirt, grime, grease, anything that's on there, and then let it dry. Usually only takes a few seconds, but let it dry, wipe it down if you need to, and once it's clean and dry, that tape will stick like glue almost, even though there's very little adhesive on it, it'll stick. Because if that doesn't stick, it doesn't matter what you put over it, that repair is going to fail. So that's a trick. Clean the surface really well with a damp sponge, let it dry, and then put down the mesh tape.
Boy, that makes a lot of sense. Anybody that's been in that situation knows exactly what you're talking about. And I'll tell you where a large wealth of knowledge is right now waiting on you at todayshomeowner.com. And we check it out all the time and realize there's a few trending articles that we like to call your attention to. And one that's gotten a lot of comments, over almost 200 comments, is about black snakes and what you should know about them. I mean, just saying snake sometimes will make people very, very, will cringe all the time. And if you have black snakes around your home, chances are they're one of two types. It's a North American rat snake or a black racer. Now, both are non-venomous with white or grayish bellies, and they eat mostly rodents and other small animals. So here's a few facts about black snakes.
Well, as you said, snakes, any snake, but especially black snakes, eat mostly rodents, lizards, but they also eat birds and bird eggs. So you might see them in and around trees very often. And the eastern rat snake or the eastern racer is a constrictor. So they climb trees, and so if you have birdhouses and you're trying to protect them, they do make baffles. Sometimes they're plastic or metal. They can put on the outside to keep snakes from getting inside the house and into the nest itself.
And another thing that I've heard about is the smell. This is kind of unique, that rat snakes emit a musky smell when threatened. How about that?
Yeah, I think it's a defense mechanism. A lot of animals do that. I mean, the skunk obviously is the most potent smeller, but I think animals in general will emit some kind of smell, I guess. Like anything else, other animals don't like it.
How about that? Very, very unusual. And their habitat, of course, living in grasses, forests, marshes, buildings, and wherever there's food and dark shelter that you might end up finding a snake.
But the best thing is that if you can live with them, they're great benefits to snakes, right? Because they are eating all those rodents that you don't want either. And you'd be surprised, one or two snakes can clear out an entire neighborhood almost of rats and mice and something like that. So, and if they're there because there's a food source. And that food source is going to be rodents and lizards and some other things you don't want in your house. So if you can live with them, that's always the best thing. You don't want to upset the balance of nature if you don't have to.
And boy, you hear all kinds of myths about snakes, and people will say certain things like, if you have a black snake around, it'll keep poisonous snakes away. I've actually heard this, but having a black snake will not guarantee there's no other snakes around. The black racer snake in North America does occasionally kill and eat other snakes, but black rat snakes, however, are not known for any snake killing. In fact, they sometimes will hibernate with other species of snakes, including copperheads and rattlesnakes.
Right, and that leads to the next myth. Although they might be hibernating with other snakes, they're not mating with them to create some venomous hybrid. So if it's a black snake, it's a black snake. Doesn't matter who it's been sleeping with, it's not venomous, right? So that's the thing. And the babies have colored markings that are easily mistaken for copperhead, so maybe that's part of the reason people think that they're part copperhead, which is venomous, by the way, they're part venomous and part non-venomous. So anyway, if it's a black snake, baby or older, it's not venomous. That's what you need to know.
I knew that was a myth without even doing any reading. Myth number 3, they're harmless. Well, just because these snakes are good to have around doesn't mean you want to be bitten by one any more than you'd want to be bitten by a raccoon, a rat, or a stray dog. Any snake bite, even a non-venomous one, is likely to be very painful, full of bacteria, which can lead to infection. So treat all snakes respectfully, keep your distance, and avoid being bitten. If you'd like to read more about this, you can go to todayshomeowner.com and in our search engine put in black snakes. So here are some of the comments. Lee says, "You are all truly sad. It is a non-venomous snake. Get a grip. Let it go and move on with your other first world problems." I get, there's a little sarcasm in here. I get black snakes in my garage, crawl space, and attic all the time. I leave them alone because they kill rats and mice. You all need to get a grip. Don't kill snakes. Wow, there's a snake lover for you right there.
Well, he's right. Don't kill snakes, but I want to know where Lee lives to make sure I don't move in next door.
Oh, boy,
he's got rats and mice and snakes all over the house. He must be leaving his boxes of Cheerios open or something, because those snakes are really all over. Yeah, but he's right. I mean, I'm an advocate for keeping animals alive if at all possible.
Mm-hmm. Also, Elizabeth D. says, maybe black and rat snakes aren't poisonous, but that doesn't mean they're harmless. This morning, my dog and I were standing on the edge of our woods in Kentucky when a black snake bit my dog. Moments later in the house, with my dog still limping, I checked the foot and saw the leg was already swelling. The vet gave him steroids and antibiotics. I'm horrified at the thought that the bite could have been on his torso, where more damage could have been done internally. If it had been a small child, I doubt non-poisonous would provide much relief either. So that, like we said earlier, they maybe not venomous, but they still can be dangerous on that. Sharon R. says, I'm scared of any type of snake. Recently, my son-in-law reported there were some snakes, black in color, in my garage. I wanted to get rid of them, not only because of my fear of them, but because I think these snakes have attracted birds' nest out of the trees, or have attacked bird's nest out of the trees in my yard. So I need to ask two questions. Can these snakes survive 100+ degree heat? I would certainly think they could.
Yeah, they're cold-blooded. They probably love the heat.
That's what I'm thinking. And should I call a professional exterminator to expel these snakes from my garage? Well, if you don't want to deal with them yourself, that's about your only option.
Yeah, I guess if you live in an area where there's lots of snakes, there's probably someone that can come and handle them and take them out of there. Joan writes, I had a 6-foot black snake. That's a big black snake, 6 foot. Wow. In the interior of my car today. It went in under the dash, and only way we got him out was to turn on the air conditioning full blast. Well, there you go, cold-blooded. He probably was in there for the heat, I guess. He exited out the front grill. I may never be able to drive that car again.
Oh, that would be.
That's crazy. I've heard of snakes getting into cars, but yeah. I guess they come through the grill and through the heat ducts or something. But yeah, that could be pretty scary, especially a 6-foot snake.
I'm sure there's some mechanics out there that have a few stories about that.
Yeah.
My car started to crank and then it just went out, and then you find a snake wrapped around fan belt in there or something like that. Okay, enough of this creepy talk and about snakes, but that is a trending article right now on todayshomeowner.com. A great place for you to drop by and see a lot of different videos, a lot of different past episodes of the Today's Homeowner television show and radio show. So drop by and visit anytime that you can. Hey, I'll tell you what, we always love, and it seems like we're getting more and more feedback from you, our listeners. We get so many tips from homeowners. I wanted to share a few of them with you because it's just great when, just like us having a great little conversation when someone has a problem. This is what we had an article on todayshomeowner.com, how to clean the inside glass on an oven door.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yep.
It's a really good article you need to check out. But we got a question there from DD that says, how do you get the glass clean on a microwave door? It seems dirty between the black screen and the glass. It's from all of my microwaving bacon. Okay, I want my wife Sharon to listen to this, right?
It's
right
bacon, like from the hog, yeah.
Yeah,
microwaving bacon, right.
Anyway, an answer came in on that. It says, first rub with a wet cloth and baking soda, then use some white vinegar on the baking soda. It just blasts through the grease. In the future, make sure you put some paper towels on top of your bacon. So,
well, she's been listening because we talk about baking soda and vinegar almost every week, right?
Oh, I know it is. Now it's time for our DIY project of the week. This is about container gardening, how to really grow flowers in pots. Now, if you lack a green thumb but desire a beautiful backyard with plants, growing flowers in pots, a very satisfying way to brighten up your porch or your yard, and it's a great way to get started with gardening.
You can start off by covering the drainage holes in the planters, because if they're too large, the soil will wash out, and then fill the pot about 2/3 with potting soil. In fact, you can put gravel over the holes, or even break up, if you have a clay pot that's cracked, you can bust that up into shards and place it in the bottom. Anything to keep the soil from washing out those drainage holes.
I also heard of putting the packing peanuts in there before.
Oh, yeah.
Makes it very lightweight, and they, still hold up without having to.
Just don't use the ones that are made from like wheat germ or something, because they dissolve underwater.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
You ever seen those?
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so you want to gently remove your plants from their store-bought pots. You have to be very, very careful. And if the plants are stuck, squeeze the pot a little bit, kind of massage them a little bit, but never just yank on the stem. Boy, that can come right out. And you want to just
they don't like that.
Then you want to disturb the roots as little as possible. But if they are a hard-packed ball, you can loosen them up a little bit with your fingers so that you can encourage them to grow. Then nestle the plants in the soil and keep an eye on the depth to make sure they'll be planted at the same level that they were in the original pot. Boy, I've been planting a lot of plants around my new house recently, and that's something every one of them warn you about, is not to go below the original area there, because I think fungus and rot can take place.
And then once you get them in the planter, you want to add soil, sprinkle soil around between the plants, and press it down using your fingers. Don't use a tool and don't press too hard, because you can break up the plants or compact the soil so much that the water won't seep through. And then make sure everything, as Danny mentioned, is the same level, the tops of the plants, that there are no roots showing.
Yeah, it's very important to pack that out, because if you get air in there, it's just not going to really work as well. If you have any little pockets or little things there, you'll find that they just don't do very well. But then you can move your container to its chosen spot and water the plant thoroughly until the water runs out of the bottom, and you can step back and really admire your handiwork. But now, when you're caring for some of the containers, you want to water your container every 2 to 3 days. In the heat of the summer, you may have to water it every single day. And if you want to feed your plants, use an all-purpose plant food every couple weeks. Just really read those instructions. And as you water, remove spent blooms to encourage more blooming, a practice called deadheading. And don't just pull off the dead petals. Actually pinch them off pinch off the little stem beneath the flower. And if your plants are looking a little spindly, pinch off the tips of the stems to stimulate them to produce more branches. You can certainly make a big difference in a small amount of space and a small amount of money by embracing some of these ideas. Hey, let's roll right into our podcast question of the week. Eddie writes, "Good Sunday morning. I have a question for you. I'm a project supervisor building house in Beaufort, South Carolina. I hung a swing yesterday on the porch for someone, and for some reason, even though I have the same measurements from the porch beams, everything is exact. The swing seems to be hanging crooked. I played with the chains, cannot quite get it to hang straight in line with the handrail or porch railings. It's like 1.5 inches difference from one end to the other from the handrail. Do you have any ideas why this is happening? And thank you for any help that you can give me." I think, Joe, on some of those chains that you use on there, I don't think that some of those links are exact. So sometimes you really have to play with that, maybe even break out the 4-foot level to lay across the bench so that you get it exactly. Maybe even have to do a little modifying or tighten the actual eye bolts up or down in order to balance it out exactly.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. If I'm understanding Eddie's problem correctly, as long as the swing is level across its length, it doesn't really matter if it aligns with the railing, because maybe the railing's pitched, because the porch floor should be pitched down away from the house, of course, so if water gets in there, it drains off. So the railings would be pitched a little bit too. So if that's what he's concerned with, that it doesn't seem level, you'd have to tighten or loosen one of the screw hooks or screw eyes or whatever's holding the chain. If you just bolted the chain to an overhead beam, then I would suggest then that would limit your ability to adjust it. So now I would replace it with a screw eye or a screw hook, a big one, and then like Danny said, you could just adjust that. But the more important thing is that it's level across its length. Mm-hmm. Talking about the swing, the bench of the swing, not so much that it aligns with the railing on the porch.
And really inspect it carefully to make sure that it will hold whatever weight you put in there. Because sometimes on a swing, you might get 3 or 4 people in there swinging. So you want to make sure it holds up well. Thank you so much for that email question at podcast question. And you can send us one anytime at todayshomeowner.com/podcast. We really appreciate getting all of the comments that we've received recently. I know a lot of people are listening to our podcast, and we truly appreciate that, and also appreciate all the great reviews that you've been writing for us. We appreciate that so much, and that's going to wrap it up for us this week. I'm Danny Lipford along with my buddy Joe Truini. Thank you so much for listening to this Today's Homeowner Podcast.